In the meantime, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this or you've heard the name Jimmy Lai around, and the fact that Keir Starmer was in China the other week and was, you know, talking to China about getting a better deal for us or whatever it is he was doing there, and he might have mentioned you. Anyway, I just thought you might like to know a little bit more about why this is significant and why this matters in a relationship, any future relationship we may have with China. Jimmy Lai is a Hong Kong pro-democracy media tycoon, and he's now been jailed for 20 years on national security related charges. That was just today. He's 78 years old, so 20 years is pretty much a life sentence. He's a British national and was given the harshest punishment. He's already spent 5 years, by the way, in solitary confinement. It's the highest punishment for what he did, and most prominent of hundreds arrested. A fierce critic of China, he often wielded his paper, the Apple Daily, as a tool of protest. Rights groups have criticised Prime Minister Keir Starmer's recent visit to China as a wasted opportunity to secure his release. Meanwhile, today the Home Office has announced a visa scheme to allow thousands more people from Hong Kong to build new lives in Britain following Jimmy Lai's political motivated prosecution. Hong Kongers who were minors at the time of the 1997 handover to China will be eligible to apply for the British National Overseas Pathway to UK citizenship independently of their parents, with 26,000 arrivals expected under the expanded scheme in the next 5 years. Well, joining us now to discuss this and why actually we've really let Hong Kong down is Thomas Benson, Senior Policy Advisor at Hong Kong Watch. Thomas, good to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Let's first of all address the sentencing of Jimmy Lai. I mean, he was a big pro-democracy voice, but he deserved better protection, didn't he, from us?
Yes, thank you, Petri. Yeah, it's been consistently disappointing that 5 years of advocacy on behalf of Jimmy Lai has not yielded in a better result today. We have seen over the last 5 years advocacy from practically every Western government, from biggest from Donald Trump to Borrell in the EU to Keir Starmer talking about Jimmy Lai, raising his case, but unfortunately, all of that advocacy has not really resulted in the release that many were hoping for. And ultimately,
no, I was just going to say, because I'm just going back to 1997 when we handed Hong Kong back to China. There was an understanding there, wasn't there, that the Chinese would not be as involved as they are today.
Absolutely. When Hong Kong was handed back to China, it had a mini constitution called the Basic Law, which was designed to erect essentially a firewall between the PRC and Hong Kong and maintain the rule of law, the capitalist economic system, which made Hong Kong one of the world's premier economic hubs. Unfortunately, since 2020, that has been trashed by the national security law, and Jimmy Lai's sentencing today is just a real chilling manifestation of what that attack on Hong Kong's basic freedoms has meant.
And we are powerless to do anything about the direction that Hong Kong is going in. I thought that was an implied that there would be the status quo from, like you said, the firewall between China rule and Hong Kong rule. What's gone wrong?
Yeah. Well, under the terms of the Sino-British Joint Declaration, the UK does have a responsibility towards Hong Kong, but unfortunately, under international law, there is no real mechanism through which the UK can directly press China on what it has done in Hong Kong. There are measures that can be introduced, of course. We can sanction key officials for their violation of that treaty, and we can introduced the B&O scheme to allow Hong Kongers who were British citizens prior to 1997 to come to the UK. And that's why the government has made this move today in response to the census.
What do you want the Keir Starmer to do now, or Yvette Cooper, or this government as a whole, for Jimmy Lai? Because his son has been on broadcast today saying that he hasn't seen his father or spoken to him for 5 years. He's been held in solitary confinement. He has, at 78, unsurprisingly, certain health conditions that he's worried about. And he feels that he's pretty much been abandoned to it.
Well, yes, and other governments, the United States, Canada, Australia, have secured the release of their citizens from jails in China, where those have become part of wider diplomatic negotiations. It's no secret that the UK government wants some form of trade deal desperately with China and Hong Kong. And really, we should make any trade deal contingent upon the release of Jimmy Lai. He is an old, sick man. This would be a perfectly humanitarian and very easy thing for the PRC to do, to show that it is negotiating in good faith.
But is China making an example of Jimmy Lai? I mean, there have been other arrests, and people normally get around about 12 years for what he's done. He's already served 5, and he's got another 20. I mean, this seems incredibly harsh.
Well, yes. As you said in your introduction, Jimmy Lai was one of the biggest pro-democracy figures in Hong Kong. A remarkable man who was a self-made billionaire, who fled from the mainland to Hong Kong, built up his empire, and used his newspapers to call for democracy and freedom in Hong Kong. So he is everything that the Chinese Communist Party opposes, and they are ultimately seeking to punish him and send a very strong message to anybody else who would seek to speak up on behalf of human rights in Hong Kong, that they will be treated in a very harsh way by the authorities.
And can Keir Starmer ride both horses? I mean, can he secure Jimmy Lai's, early release and have a good relationship with Beijing?
Well, I think it's a common misconception that if you talk tough on certain issues with China, that you will damage your economic relationship. The United States, throughout the Biden years and now into the Trump years, has consistently taken a much tougher line on China policy than the UK. And yet it has continued to have bilateral economic dialogues. Our current strategy of not saying much about Jimmy Lai to not offend them is really just not very impressive. It doesn't make us seem like serious contenders in trade negotiations. And I think that we could be a lot bolder in setting out what we want and really pushing for meaningful concessions.
Is Keir Starmer being weak? Was he weak when he met with Xi, not to take that stance and to make it very clear that any deals were contingent on his release?
I think he was overly cautious. I think that's a fault that he has shared with other prime ministers. But yes, I think that much stronger action could have been taken to press for Jimmy Lai's release.
And what does the future of Hong Kong look like now? I mean, I visited Hong Kong once. I thought it was glorious. I thought it was a very strange place, but I really loved it. I was there for a few weeks. But what is it, before it was handed back, by the way, but before it's, what is it looking like now? What's going to happen with Hong Kong? Have we completely lost all touch with it now?
Sadly, the future of Hong Kong is an increasingly repressive place. A lot of the freedoms that made Hong Kong that vibrant, bustling hub have been trampled on by the national security law. So yes, it's a much diminished city from what it once was, not just politically, but also I think economically, because while Chinese companies still have a very strong presence in Hong Kong, international companies are shying away, and that does mean that Hong Kong loses, I think, some of the international flavour that made it what it was.
And is China, is Xi angry with this visa scheme? He's not going to want to see Hong Kongers leaving in their tens of thousands, is he?
Well, when the UK government first introduced the B&O scheme in 2021, in response to the national security law, the Chinese foreign ministry did criticise the move quite strongly and said that it was going to non-recognise the passport identity going forward. So further moves to expand the scheme, I'm sure that that she will not be particularly happy about it, but there is little that do on this. So we do commend the government for taking this step.
And what next for Jimmy Lai? Is he going to be continually held in solitary?
Well, yes, unfortunately, the days ahead do look quite dark for Jimmy. He will remain in solitary confinement. However, of course, his son Sebastian, his daughter Claire have been indefatigable on the world stage and advocating for their father's release. He has his supporters in human rights bodies and NGOs worldwide, and many political supporters as well, who are not going to give up the effort to free Jimmy Lai through whatever diplomatic means are still available.
And can his being held in solitary for going on, 5 years plus? I mean, that would seem to be unusually cruel as well. But can he have visitors? Can he take calls? Can he speak to? I mean, his son said he hadn't spoken to him for 5 years.
No, I think contact is very limited. His daughter Claire did manage to see him, but he is in solitary confinement 23 hours a day. He's allowed out for an hour to do exercise. He has very limited contact with the outside world. Again, this is about making an example of a very old and rather frail man.
Yeah. And the next we'll hear, will there be an appeal, do you think?
There will be an appeal. The chances of anything meaningful coming from that are obviously very, very low. But there will be this semblance of the old common law Hong Kong system in place so that China and Hong Kong can say that they are still abiding by the rule of law.
And how quickly can diplomatic moves be made, do you think? Should Keir Starmer be bashing the phones now to Xi?
Well, I would be very surprised if behind the scenes there weren't already some diplomatic overtures going into effect, especially from the UK government, because he is a British citizen. We certainly will be continuing to encourage Keir Starmer to make use of whatever diplomatic leverage is available to secure the release of Jimmy Lai. And I'd be very surprised if behind the scenes something was not already going to effect.
Good to speak to you, Thomas. Thank you very much indeed. Thomas Benson there, Senior Policy Advisor at Hong Kong Watch. Quick break, back in a sec.